Hello everybody, welcome to the sound test stream. Today we are taking a look at the Moog Model 15 modular synth. It's been out for ages. This is going to be a tutorial. I'm going to take you through all the modules, how you can connect them, how you can make loads of cool sounds, what the modules do, how to connect them, all sorts of crazy stuff you can do, and also some completely normal stuff you can do. Okay, so we're going to start. This is a patch that I've made. I've made quite a lot now whilst preparing this video. But we're going to be starting with blank patches, and then maybe at the end, if we have time, I'll run through some of the ones that I've already programmed. In the end, I'll have created the bank. So if you're a patron, you'll get that bank for free. If you're not, it'll be on Gumroad for not a lot anyway. Anyway, so let's do this. First thing we're going to do is go into our browser, and I'm just going to hit new preset, close the browser, and now nothing at all is connected. And if I hit my MIDI keyboard, you'll see this little warning will come up here, and it'll just say patches incomplete. Okay, so getting sound out of the Model 15 is pretty straightforward. It's easy. These are your trunk lines. These are your main audio outputs. Something has to be connected to these to get sound out. Now, if I go onto my keyboard here, you'll see that I have my volume control mapped to my little Arturia key step. And like I said, if I press a key, you'll get this warning because there's no connection. So I'm going to make sure the volume's turned down a little bit quiet here. And I'm just going to make a direct connection between this oscillator here. So there's oscillator 921B. There's two of those, and they're both controlled by the oscillator driver. Now, even on the hardware, these were connected with an edge connector inside. So there's no actual physical connection you need to do to the oscillator driver. It just controls both of these at the same time. For example, if I connect this rectangle, now I'm going to move up so we can see our trunk lines. There's a couple of ways you can connect cables. You can hold and drag like this, and you'll immediately hear sound because it's just going completely through to the trunk line. Okay, or we can hold and clear, or we can double tap and then tap on any of the connections that you can see. So you can't really go wrong. So these will be all your inputs for this, all your outputs, sorry, for this rectangle. So we're just going to go double tap and get that back in. We can control let me do this with my finger. We can control the rate in semitones of this, and also the range. And then each of these oscillators, this oscillator, and the voltage controlled oscillator, the 921, this one here, which is more complex, these can all be set to low mode, and then they become LFOs basically. Okay, so I'm going to show you all this stuff. So, however, if we connect another output to the trunk line here, we're going to split this into a stereo signal. So for example, I'm going to use this sawtooth, and now you'll hear that they are split in the headphones, right? So now most of the time you won't need to do this unless you want to go crazy stereo, but anything you connect to just one will come out of both headphones, so it's fine. So if we change this to a sawtooth, the sawtooth will come out, and we've got a triangle wave and a sine wave. We can also connect the same oscillator to this with a different waveform. So we could go, and we'd have the same split stereo effect. So if I was to take away this sine, you'll see it's in both headphones now. Okay. Now let's take this sawtooth. In fact, let's connect this to the mixer. So let's put that in the mixer. Let's take this triangle wave and put this into the mixer. Let's take the output from the mixer into the trunk line. And now we've got mix control for both these oscillators. Now, like I said, these are driven, both of them, by the oscillator driver. So this will control both. And you can go in octaves. Super wide range there. And you can also change the range here. Okay. So let's just disconnect this triangle for a moment. And let me show you the sync. Okay. So we can sync the oscillators together. We can sync these two oscillators together to get that classic kind of sync sound. So if we go sync in here and connect it to this triangle and then switch this on, let's push this right up, take this down, and now let's turn the volume up a bit for that. Now we can control the sync. Okay, so now you've got that classic sync sound, and you can do it the other way around as well, of course. Okay. So let's just disconnect that for a moment. So now we're just back to our sawtooth wave. Let's put this into triangle wave now, which if 50% is a square. This now controls the width of the triangle, so pulse width. Okay, and like I said, because all these three are connected together anyway, and they're all key tracked, by the way. This one isn't, but we'll get into that in a sec. These three are key tracked, so if I hit a different note on my MIDI keyboard, but we've got no envelope control yet, and no filtering, just going through the oscillators, through the mixer. Okay, so say for instance, we want to modulate our pulse width. We can use this oscillator to do that. If we take a sine wave here and connect that to the width and put it into low mode, so LFO, now we're controlling the pulse width with this oscillator. Cool beans. Now that's controlling the pulse width. Say for instance we want to control a frequency, you have two width inputs as well. You also have three frequency inputs. So same thing again, we'll take this sine, we'll leave it on LFO mode, low mode, take this sine out, put it into one of the frequency controls, and now we're controlling the frequency of this oscillator using an LFO with this one into the frequency. Now, these are the same. Okay. Cool. Let's disconnect them. So now let's make a connection between the oscillator and the filter. Let's start again. So we've got nothing going on. Let's take our sawtooth here. I won't use the mixer. I'll go up to the 904A filter. We'll connect that to that, like that. We'll take the signal output from the filter and just go down to the trunk line. And you'll hear it's quite dark now because we're filtering it. So now we're passing that frequency, that oscillator through our filter. And this is a self-resonating filter. We can actually set this up to play it with a keyboard as well, but I'll show you that in a bit. Okay, but we've still got no envelope control. Now, again, we could use this oscillator to modulate this filter. If we take, again, we'll take a sine out. We'll make sure that our oscillator's on LFO mode. We'll switch our sync off now because it's not plugged in. We'll take this sine output and plug it into the control, one of the control inputs. It's CV inputs, right? And now we're controlling the LFO, the filter, with this LFO. Now we can go into audio range for different sounds. But we could also, we have three CV inputs, three control inputs for the filter. We could take this rectangle wave and plug that in. And now we're going to get a different effect. Which is very cool. Okay. Let's just click new. Let's set up something that you can now play, something super simple that you can now play with the keyboard. It sounds like a normal synth. All right. So we'll just take our sawtooth here. And this time we'll use the mixer. Okay, so we'll plug that into the mixer. We'll take one of the mixer outs. It doesn't matter. You can use them both. You can use it, or any of the four actually, but we'll take one of the mixer outs and we'll go straight up to the filter. Plug that in there. We'll take the signal out from the filter and plug that into the voltage controlled amp here. Still nothing to do with the envelopes. This is the amp. I'll show you this in a sec. Well, I'll show you it now. Take an output from the amplifier and plug that into a trunk line. And if we turn this volume up now, you'll hear the filtered signal. So, cool way to do this now to get control is we'll take the, you could do this with this envelope or that envelope, but I want to use this envelope for filtering. So I'm going to take the output from the envelope, right? And I'm going to plug it into the input of this envelope. And now if I play my keyboard, I can still have it just rerunning, but now I'm playing it with the keyboard, right? So I can make some normal kind of adjustments. Turn the volume up a little bit. In fact, let's just boost our volume here. We have a master gain as well. So now we've got a playable keyboard. So all we've had to do is take our output from our mixer. Our waveform goes into our mixer. Output from the mixer goes into the filter. Output from the filter goes into the amp envelope. Output from the amp envelope goes down to trunk line 1. And now connect the output from this into the input from the filter. And you have 3 inputs for each of these amplifiers as well. Okay. Now, so for example, now we could take the output of this filter and put it into control input for the output from that envelope and plug it into control input for the filter. And now we've got control over our filter. So using this as a classic filter envelope now, and this is our normal ADSR. So looking at the filter now, we can, now regeneration is resonance, by the way. The filter range is how much the cutoff will open. So for instance, so now you've got really kind of half decent lead sound and we're only using one sawtooth, we can now, because we're using the mixer, we could put, say, like a sine. Let's see if we can. Okay. So that's how you make your basic kind of connections as a keyboard, right? Very cool. Very cool beans. Right. Okay. So next, let's take a look at this oscillator here. This is a really cool oscillator, right? So I think best thing to do is just to create a new preset and go from scratch. Now, anytime you want, you double tap anywhere and it will focus in on the module that you've double tapped on. So for example, like that or like that, but we want to be looking at this. This is a really, really clever oscillator, right? So let's double tap to get out the way. Let's connect up a, say, triangle wave. Instead of going directly to the trunk line, which we can, by the way. And that's the triangle. If I play the MIDI keyboard now, nothing will change. But we can control the frequency here. And we have sub-audio mode, which is, well, you won't even hear it. You might hear it click. This is going into LFO mode now. And this is scaling. You also have this auxiliary output, which is another waveform, right? So it's very cool. So for example, we could take this auxiliary out and plug that into the mixer. Let's disconnect this and plug this in. Let's put this into the mixer as well, shall we? Just for now. Okay, take the output from the mixer. Yeah, let's set the patch up. So we've got two waveforms. Let's set this up properly. Let's go with an output from the mixer into our filter. Signal output from the filter into the amp envelope here. And then into the amplifier, sorry. Then the output from the amplifier will go into the trunk line. And, you know, you can turn this up now and hear it. Or we can make it so we can play it. I'm going to again use this and put it into here. I'm going to open up this and make some adjustments to the envelope. Now, listen, I'm playing different notes. If we go open our keyboard, it's not changing. This oscillator by default is not key tracked. I'm going to make some adjustments to the volume as well. So we've got a triangle, and on this we're using, you see our auxiliary output here is a sine wave. We have all these different waveforms for our auxiliary thing. So let's turn this into a saw. Okay, cool beans. But we're still, wherever we press, we're not. If we want to control this with a keyboard, it's very simple. What we do is we look at our controller section. Now, if at any time, right, if any time your cables are in the way, put two fingers, just double tap with two fingers anywhere on the screen, and the cables will dim and you'll be able to see what's going on. So now if I take pitch control voltage, you have pitch, modulation, velocity, and aftertouch. Okay, and we also have two of these for the ribbon controller as well. So let's take pitch control, plug it into frequency control input here, and now we've turned this oscillator into a playable oscillator, the same as these over here. We can still use these as well if we want. Now, if I use the rectangle, which is basically the square, we can control a rectangle width here. turn this one down. So now you're just hearing the rectangle. And you can modulate again the width with one of these or one of the envelopes. I don't think there's anything been, is there anything been done with this envelope? I don't think there is. Let's connect this envelope to the width. See? So you're using an envelope to control the width. Now let's just disconnect that. Or we could use one of the oscillators, either or, it doesn't matter. Let's say we'll take a, I don't know, we'll take a sine wave from this oscillator, the 921B, one of the 921Bs, connect that to the width control, and now we're controlling the width of the rectangle with this oscillator here. Okay. Very, very, very cool beans indeed. Okay. Same thing again, we could take, let's see, a sawtooth here and plug that into this. So now, let's get this down. We need to put this into sub-audio rate. So it's doing some really cool stuff because the oscillators are the only oscillators that we're hearing. Cool beans. And then we could start to add a couple more. We could put a triangle in here and a rectangle in here. Now you've created a kind of dissonant, weird lead sound. Right, okay, I'm gonna do a new preset. And this time we're gonna have a look at the fixed filter bank. Fixed filter bank is absolutely brilliant, okay? I mean, it really is very, very, very cool. Again, we'll take something straightforward. We'll use our, let's see, our sawtooth in here and our rectangle in here. And we shall take one of our outputs from our mixer and go straight into the fixed filter bank. From the fixed filter bank, we'll go into signal input on our low pass filter. Signal output, again, we'll go into our envelope, and our output we will put into our trunk line. And this envelope here will be our shaping envelope for our sound. Now, you won't hear nothing and you'll get a little warning. This is because the fixed filter bank, it attenuates all the frequencies, and default, everything is turned down. If I hold a key, as soon as I start to bring any of these up, you'll hear sound. Let me open this filter. So open it up all the way. Turn it up a little bit. So as soon as I start to blend in the different frequencies, all this cool stuff going on. Let's make. Now this is the envelope generators are laid out in a slightly weird way with this. So you have attack, decay, release, and sustainers at the end. But that's quite a nice sound, right? Now the only thing you can't do is you can't modulate the fixed filter bank, which is probably why it's called fixed. It's really a tone. It's really a tone shaping thing. Now, because we're taking our output from our mixer, we could bring in some other stuff. We could say like, oh, let's take the triangle as well and put that in. Or maybe even, let's put that in a rectangle and do a bit of modulation on the, well, adjustment to the pulse width. Now you may have noticed these other inputs as well. So AC modulate and DC modulate, they sound quite similar. So for example, say for example, we wanted to modulate this oscillator. If we take a sine wave and plug that into this, let's put that into our sub-audio mode. Let's put the sustain. Or change it to this. Or to this one. Okay, very cool. So you can see the differences of modulating the AC or the DC modulate controls. Okay, so we didn't take that. So we're still back to our sound. So let's do some other cool stuff with that. Let's take our sine wave here from this and plug it into our filter. And now it's modulating. It's modulating the filter, right? And we can change the scale. But you might notice we don't really have any control over the amount of modulation, and this is where the attenuators come into play. So first of all, we're going to set up a super simple attenuator for controlling the amount of modulation. Okay, so from the sine output of our voltage controlled oscillator here, which we've got set on sub audio mode, which is controlling our filter. We're going to connect that to our first attenuator there. So we'll take this and this will go into here. And then this output from the attenuator will go into here. And now we won't hear anything. Nothing at all, because the signal has been attenuated. And on a normal synth, normally this would be the LFO amount. So you can set attenuators for anything, but it works similar to LFO amount. So as I bring the attenuator up, we're increasing the depth of the LFO. Okay. Also, another thing here is right. If I speed this up a little bit. Or maybe as I play this envelope here, that LFO, when I play a key, the LFO isn't been re-triggered. The LFO is free runnings. Say I want the LFO to re-trigger every time I press a key. What we use is these S trigger controls. So there's only a few of these. You can, all it does is it means that the LFO or the envelopes can re-trigger each time you press a key, whereas at the moment they're not. They're just triggering. The LFO is just free running. So the little clamps, so we can double tap on here and connect it to here. And now we can set the actual re-trigger. Let me just expand this. This here, the the clamping point. So you've got full range of where you want that LFO to re-trigger. And you could also do it for the envelopes as well. Or we can, if we disconnect it again, see, it's not re-triggering, which for some things is great. Okay. So we've looked at the attenuators. Now you also have on here, if we go further down here, a reversible attenuator. Okay, so this is exactly, it works exactly the same way, right? So let's take our sine, or what we're using for our modulation, and going into the other attenuator. Let's just plug that into the output there for that one. And let's take this. Sorry, I'm going to grab this down and plug it into, I'm going to do it like this. Disconnect this attenuator altogether and connect the sine here, and then connect the output here to here. So now we've lost our modulation because our attenuator is on 0. Now the reverse attenuator is basically a bipolar amount, so we can go plus or negative and get that kind of bipolar effect. The other thing, right, down the bottom here, if we go further down, these are extra modules that were never on the hardware. Okay, so if you have a delay, don't worry too much about audio bridge and MIDI bridge. This is in the days before AUV3, and this was used to connect the Model 15 to different apps. With AUV3, a lot of this is redundant now, but you can still use it if you want to with Interapp. Okay, you also have, like I said, a delay effect. You have reversible attenuators down here, but 2 extra reversible attenuators. So one on the main block, if you like, and then you have 3 ordinary attenuators that you can attach to anything and control the amount of the signal. You have this one down here, and then you also have these 2 here. The difference with these 2, which is really cool, is they have control inputs as well. So you can plug in an LFO or your envelope to control how the reversible attenuator is working. We also have this extra amplification section, which is also super handy. For example, if you're having difficulties, this is quite loud enough, but say for instance it wasn't, all you need to do is take your trunk line output here, your trunk line input, sorry, connect it to the amplifier, take this one here and connect it to the trunk line. And now you've got amplification, extra amplification if you need it. So let me see as well. Also, we can take the outputs from this reversible attenuator and plug them into one of these down here. So we'll just go, right, okay, so grab hold of it. Input and grab hold of that. Output. So it's the same. But now we can modulate this reversible attenuator with anything. We could modulate it with this rectangle. Let's double tap on that, slap that into the modulation point. So now this is modulating now. So if I plug that back in, we're now using that rectangle wave there to modulate this reversible attenuator. And because it's a triangular wave, right, we've got control here. We could say, well, let's take a sine wave from here, modulate the width of that. Very cool. It's all very, very cool stuff. Okay, so let's take a look at the multipliers. Let's start a new patch. Don't need to save that. So the multipliers, what they do is they take a signal input. So I guess easiest way to do this is, again, let's just set up a super simple kind of patch here. Let's take a sawtooth here, and from that we'll go to our filter out, signal in. This goes to our trunk line, and we'll control our envelope with this one again. You can use this one if you want to, and plug it in there. Let's open up our filter. Right, okay, cool beans. First of all, what we're going to do is, say for instance, I want to modulate the frequency again. So like this. Okay, so I'm modulating that. Now let's go into our so you can hear that our sine wave is now modulating our filter. Let's do this. Instead of it going into the filter, let's take it down and put it into, I need to just scroll down with my finger. Let's put it in, you can, either of these, they're identical. They're just one stuck in a mixer and one stuck in a reversible attenuator. Let's put that in there. Let's take this. Now what happens is when you plug in anything to this first multiplier slot, the other three multiplier slots become outputs. So you can triple up the signal, right? So for example, let's take the output here. So now we've got three outputs. Let's take that output here and let's plug that into this here. And now you'll hear we've got this. The cool thing is now, because we've got three outputs, we could take this output and plug it into anywhere else. So we've made it more powerful now. So take this one. you triple the signal. And you can do that again with pretty much anything you like. It doesn't need to be modulation sources like that. You can do it with actual sound if you wanted to. So like, for instance, let's take this rectangle, stick it in here. Let's take the output and put it into the trunk line. Let's see, where can we go with the, oh, I know, stick that. Let's put this into the mixer. See, and now it's going to get louder. Okay. So multiples are used to, you can like triple the output. And you've got two of them as well. Let's see. Yeah, let's make a quick polyphonic patch, right? All right, so let's do something like a sawtooth polyphonic pad. Okay, so I'm going to take the sawtooth from this, stick it in the mixer here, sawtooth from this, stick it in the mixer here. I'm going to take the sawtooth from this one as well, stick it in the mixer here. We also have noise as well. I haven't covered that. So I'm going to take the output. I'm going to plug that down. I'm going to plug that into my filter bank. Take this, plug it into there. Take the output there, plug it into here. Take this output, plug it into our trunk line. So standard stuff. So take the output of this envelope and plug it in here. Because I'm going into the filter bank, I've attenuated everything. So I also, of course, need to pitch control this oscillator. We've got this polyphonic switch here. So now we can play up to 4 notes. And what this basically does is makes 4 copies of the synth in the background, sort of thing, with the same connections and everything. So all we need to do is shape. Let's connect this envelope to our increase the range. So you've got kind of a pad. What we could do is bring in a bit of noise, but in the noise section, you'll see there's some filters as well. So we've got a low pass filter and a high pass filter. And if we connect our pink noise is better, it's darker, but if we connect our pink noise to the high pass filter, and then the output of that filter, we can connect to the last available mixer input. And if we turn these 3 down and play, we've got some control as well with our envelope because we're routed through that way. So cool, let's bring these back up. Turn that down a bit. Now I think what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to, if I put this white noise now into the frequency modulation on this oscillator driver that controls both of these, remember, let's do that. This is going to be wild. No, we won't need to do that. Better. Now, because the pink noise has got more control, it's kind of lo-fi-ish. But we could use either our reversible attenuator. So, for example, let's use that because we can see it, but we could use the attenuators up here. Let's take this pink noise here and stick it in this, and let's take this one and stick it in there. Now we can get like a lo-fi. Now we've got this kind of polyphonic lo-fi vibe. Let's see. I'm never going to do this in one video. I've gone on long enough as it is. Okay, I'm going to do part 2 of this, so where I cover like the arpeggiator and stuff, because that's all very cool. But we will just quickly add a little bit of... Now, the delay effect is pre-wired, hardwired after the trunk line outputs. Okay. So we can bring our delay in any time. We don't need to make any connections, but we can modulate the time, the feedback, and the mix. So, okay, let's bring up our mix. Very cool. So that could be a complete patch. So all we need to do now is go save preset and call this lo-fi pad. Just hit save, and that'll be added to my bank lo-fi pad. So guys, for the next couple of minutes, if you watched this during the premiere, you're well done. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope kind of step by step took you through different things that you can do with like the cool stuff you can do, the multiples, and how you navigate around, how you make connections, how you can basically make simple connections just by following the chain through. I mean, there's loads of stuff I wanted to show you with this, the controller outputs, but really we need more time. So but this should give you enough to get you going. I mean, the arpeggiator and stuff is dead easy and things like that. But I want to, in another video, I want to show you the cool ribbon control and stuff you can do with that. The Animo keyboard that comes with it as well. So you've got like your ordinary keys, your Animo keys, your arpeggiator. Let's turn one of these off. And also your ribbon controller. A ribbon controller has to be connected from here to wherever you want to connect it, sort of thing. Anyway, I've got on long enough, like I said. We've saved our pad. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, strike the like, subscribe to the channel. You can do some very, very, very cool stuff. And it doesn't take super long to build a decent patch, you know. That sounds okay to me. I mean, and there's tons of stuff we could still do. I said, oh, let's modulate, say, I don't know, let's go with down to this here now. Awesome. I'm going to finish off by playing through some of my patches. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you later. Ta-da!